A dog stares at two cups on the floor. Food is hidden under only one of them. A person points a single finger toward the correct cup. The dog ignores the other cup and walks straight to the one being pointed at. This looks ordinary, but it is stranger than it seems. A pointing finger carries no smell and never moves toward the food itself. For the dog to understand it, one species has to trust a signal from a completely different species. Behind that calm moment sits a wild predator with sharp teeth and no built-in reason to trust humans at all. Wolves can bring down animals many times their own size. And yet a descendant of that same animal learned to watch a human hand instead of a human throat. Here is the strange part. The lineage that once kept prehistoric humans nervous around a fire now perks up at a bag opening in another room. That shift happened through thousands of small choices, most too ordinary to notice at the time. So here is the real question hiding behind this simple trick. How did a wild predator become so deeply adapted to the social signals of another species? And if leftover food were the whole answer, why aren't foxes, hyenas, or crows sleeping on our beds instead? This video follows 4 ingredients: proximity, tolerance, cooperation, and the point when human choice began reinforcing them. There is no single moment where a wolf became a dog, but there is a pattern, and once you see it, that pointing finger will never look quite so simple again. To understand how wolves became dogs, one common idea needs clearing away first. Making a single wolf comfortable around people is not the same as creating a stable domesticated lineage. That first process is taming, one animal learning to tolerate or cooperate with humans during its own lifetime. A tamed wolf can still carry almost all the instincts and needs of a wild wolf underneath. Domestication is different because it changes a whole population across many generations, not just one animal. Some individuals survive or reproduce more successfully, and traits suited to the human environment keep being passed on. Those small differences accumulate until the population becomes measurably different from its wild ancestors. Early humans may still have raised orphaned wolf pups from time to time, but one pup raised by one family cannot explain genetic change across an entire population. It cannot explain why calm temperament became stable and heritable, or why so many descendants ended up unusually skilled at reading human cues. This is also where the word accidental needs a clearer definition. Accidental does not mean uncaused, and it does not mean no selection was happening. It means no one was working from a blueprint for a domesticated lineage. Neither wolves nor humans knew where any of this was heading. Dogs were not designed. They emerged from thousands of small survival decisions whose final result no wolf and no human could foresee. That process could begin only after human camps created a new opportunity in the wolves' world. Human camps did not appear as an intentional resource for wolves. They produced things a hungry wolf could use: scraps of meat, organs, hide, waste, and remains left behind. None of this was stable, safe, or generous. It was simply more predictable than hunting every meal in the wild. For a wolf, a human camp was a temptation and a threat at the same time. People carried fire and spears, moved in dangerous groups, and could kill an animal that approached too aggressively. Instead of picturing wolves as 3 fixed types, it helps to imagine a range of possible reactions. Some individuals leaned toward open aggression, approaching with threat displays, and those animals were often driven off or killed. Some leaned toward extreme caution, keeping so much distance that they missed the opportunity entirely. And some sat in between, watching longer, recovering faster from stress, and stepping closer only when the risk looked low. Humans did not need to choose deliberately. Their ordinary reactions to danger created a filter. Dangerous individuals were driven off or killed. More predictable and less fearful individuals were tolerated often enough to keep returning. It is not accurate to say wolves decided to domesticate themselves. They were doing something much simpler, taking advantage of a resource that happened to exist nearby. Natural selection does not require a long-term goal to start working. Food created proximity. But proximity only explains why some wolves came closer. It does not explain why wolves, of all the scavengers in that world, went so much further than the rest. Plenty of animals could scavenge around a human camp: foxes, hyenas, ravens, and other birds. So the real puzzle is not why something showed up to eat scraps. The puzzle is why wolves, specifically, became humanity's closest animal partner. Group living is not a complete answer. Hyenas have complex societies, and several bird species show sophisticated social behavior. A more honest answer likely involves a combination of traits lining up at once, rather than one explanation doing all the work. The first piece is social coordination. Wolves hunt in groups, tracking where other members are and adjusting behavior in response. Bringing down large prey requires real cooperation, not just several individuals hunting near one another. Wolves and humans did not share identical social systems, but both depended on predicting what others would do so coordinated action could work. The second piece is ecological overlap. Wolves and prehistoric humans often pursued similar prey, covered large territories, and relied on endurance in cold or seasonal environments. They were competitors in many ways, but their skills were not identical, and that gap left room for a relationship neither side had planned. The third piece is behavioral flexibility. Some wolves may have been better at adjusting their distance, reading danger, learning camp rhythms, and returning when conditions felt safer. That is a kind of flexibility not every scavenger shares. None of this should be treated as a fully solved equation. Social compatibility may help explain why some wolves turned access to human food into something more lasting than scavenging. Together, these traits gave some wolves more than access to scraps. They gave them a way to remain near people. Foxes, hyenas, and corvids each possessed parts of this package. Wolves may have been unusual because enough of those traits overlapped with humans in the same place for long enough. No single trait was the key. The combination also had to work at several distances. At first, a camp follower only needed to avoid being killed while collecting scraps. A closer relationship demanded greater tolerance of noise, movement, tools, and sudden human behavior. An animal could be clever and still fail if fear kept it too far away. It could be social and still fail if aggression made every close encounter dangerous. Being useful was not enough either. People also had to find the animal predictable. This helps explain why no comparison species provides a simple counterexample. Each may match wolves in one area without matching the whole ecological and social package. If wolves carried that rare combination, the next question is which trait selection reached for first. The earliest changes may not have shown up in appearance at all. They likely started with something quieter, the strength of a fear response. Wolves with a lower fear response could approach food sources more often, wasting less energy fleeing from every sudden movement. They could observe humans for longer stretches without panicking, which made their behavior easier to predict. And more predictable animals had more chances to survive and reproduce inside this new niche. Across many generations, small differences in temperament could accumulate into something far larger. A well-known experiment offers a useful comparison, though only as an analogy. Researchers working with foxes selected breeding pairs mainly for reduced fear and reduced aggression toward humans. Over generations, behavior shifted dramatically, and some physical traits changed alongside it. That experiment does not recreate the story of dog domestication, and it does not prove wolves changed in exactly the same sequence. What it does show is how strongly selecting for one response to humans can reshape an entire population over time. The earliest proto-dogs likely did not look much different from wild wolves. They may simply have panicked less, recovered from stress more quickly, and kept their attention on humans a little longer than their more anxious relatives. Temperament created tolerance, but tolerance was not partnership yet. Something had to turn that uneasy truce into an actual exchange of benefits. We cannot reconstruct every step directly, so what follows is a plausible pathway, not a recovered timeline. At first, humans may simply have tolerated wolves that kept their distance, ate discarded food, and avoided conflict. That alone would have given calmer animals a modest advantage. Over time, some wolves may also have served as accidental warning systems. Their hearing and smell could reveal dangers humans had not noticed. A large predator approaching from the tree line, another group of people moving nearby, prey animals shifting positions somewhere out of sight, unusual activity happening just beyond the edge of camp. People did not need to decode every reaction correctly. Some groups only had to notice that the animal's behavior sometimes carried useful information. A human group might notice that certain postures repeatedly appeared before danger. A wolf might learn that certain human sounds predicted food, movement, or punishment. Neither side needed to understand the other's mind in a modern sense. Repeated association could turn random reactions into dependable signals. Once signals became dependable, simple coordination became possible without anything resembling formal training. This pathway may have differed between regions and populations. Some relationships may have ended at scavenging, while others moved further toward cooperation. In some relationships, the exchange may have gone further. Certain wolves may have been better at following tracks, returning to the same camp, or responding to rough guidance. This was not a trained hunting partnership that we can confirm. Even at this early stage, the exchange may have run in both directions. Wolves may have gained steadier food, occasional protection near camp, and better reproductive odds in this new niche. Humans may have gained warning signals, help detecting tracks, or occasional support during hunts. The relationship likely did not begin with affection. Repeated encounters may have taught both sides that the other was safer and more useful nearby than absent. Social flexibility made cooperation possible. Natural selection had shaped which wolves could remain nearby. Human choice was beginning to shape which of them stayed. In the beginning, humans were mostly reacting rather than deliberately choosing. Wolves took advantage of a new environment, and people responded to whichever individuals seemed dangerous or seemed tolerable. No one was trying to create a domesticated lineage. Gradually, that balance may have shifted toward something more intentional. People may have started leaving food specifically for the individuals that proved useful, or allowed certain animals to approach a little closer than before. They may have protected an injured animal or pup, especially when it was alert, cooperative, or useful at tracking. They likely removed individuals that continued to pose real danger. This was almost certainly not one collective decision made in a single moment. It looks more like a long chain of small behaviors repeating across generations. Noticing that one individual was useful, tolerating it a bit more than others, giving that individual, or its offspring, a better chance at survival, and repeating that choice again and again. Two different selection pressures were effectively operating here. At first, natural selection favored wolves capable of living near people at all. Later, human selection increasingly favored individuals that were safe, easy to read, or genuinely useful. The beginning was accidental. The continuation gradually became intentional. An animal that warned of danger, returned reliably, or grew up beside children could begin to matter beyond practical use. That does not mean affection appeared from the very first encounter, but it does mean the relationship was no longer only about resources. Human choice made the change durable. That durability changed both their temperament and their relationship with humans. Across generations in the human environment, these animals became calmer and unusually attentive to another species. Dogs today are often remarkably good at following a pointing gesture, tracking human gaze, and looking to a person when a problem becomes difficult. They adjust their behavior to tone of voice and visible emotion. Many also sustain eye contact in ways that support an ongoing relationship. Wolves are not blind to human gestures. Results vary with socialization, upbringing, and study design. Across many studies, dogs appear unusually prepared to attend to human social cues, even compared with their close wolf relatives. Selection may have favored not only the ability to understand humans, but also the motivation to keep checking us. That distinction matters. An animal can learn a cue without treating a human face as socially important by default. Dogs often behave as though the human is part of the problem-solving system. When they are uncertain, looking back at us can itself become a strategy. This is one reason domestication changed more than fear. It changed where attention naturally goes. Some of this likely rests on biological changes, including eye contact patterns and hormonal systems involving oxytocin that can support bonding in both directions. No single hormone explains the entire relationship on its own. One smaller detail is the exaggerated eyebrow movement, often called puppy eyes. It may show how selection shaped the way dogs draw human attention, without needing to become the centerpiece of this story. Dogs did more than become less fearful. They became skilled at reading humans, seeking information from us, and treating us as social partners rather than obstacles. A dog is not merely a wolf that tolerates people. It is an animal shaped, over thousands of years, to pay close attention to people. That brings us back to the pointing finger from the beginning. The strange part is not just that a dog can follow one gesture. Selection reshaped a predator lineage to attend closely to another species. If this happened gradually, across an entire population, the natural next question is when a wolf actually became a dog. There is no clean line where wolf ends and dog begins. No wolf gave birth to a fully formed dog overnight. Populations accumulate small differences in temperament, stress response, reproduction, attention to social signals, and dependence on the human environment. Eventually, their descendants were no longer simply wild wolves near a camp, although no dramatic moment marked the change. The first dogs are better understood as populations in transition, a wide, blurry zone rather than one identifiable animal. That zone probably included multiple transitional populations, some of which continued and others that disappeared. Researchers still debate when and where dog lineages became clearly distinct, and whether domestication happened once or through several connected populations. Ancient DNA and archaeological evidence sometimes point in directions that are difficult to fully reconcile with each other. Evolutionary categories look clean in diagrams, but messy inside changing populations. Archaeology gives snapshots separated by enormous gaps, not a continuous film. DNA can reveal relationships and mixture, but it cannot narrate every behavior connecting those populations. That is why the broad pattern can be strong while the exact route remains debated. There is also an ongoing question about which side started this process. Wolves may have initiated contact by exploiting human environments, while humans later intensified the process and pushed it in new directions. Neither explanation needs to be treated as the wrong one. Direct ancient evidence comes from physical remains, archaeological contexts, and ancient DNA. Behavior and biology in living dogs and wolves provide comparative evidence, not a recording of the past. Plausible reconstruction includes scavenging near camps, warning behavior, and possible help with tracking or hunting. Illustrative scenes, such as one wolf at a camp edge or one person choosing not to attack, remain speculation. Some ancient burials place humans and dogs together. They suggest that, by then, at least some relationships had moved beyond pure usefulness. With all of that laid out, it becomes possible to answer the original question without shrinking a very long process into a simple myth. Picture that same dog again, watching a hand, then finding the food it pointed toward. That small moment of attention was not built in a single training session. It reflects generations in which attention, lower fear, predictability, cooperation, and human preference all improve the odds of survival or reproduction. So, why did wolves accidentally become dogs? Human camps created a new ecological opportunity that had not existed before. Wolves with lower fear and lower aggression were better positioned to take advantage of it. A combination of social coordination, behavioral flexibility, and ecological overlap made some wolves unusually capable of living alongside humans. Humans gradually favored safer and more useful individuals, reshaping both the animals and the relationship across generations. Food created proximity. Temperament created tolerance. Social flexibility made cooperation possible. Human choice made the change durable. This was accidental in intention, but never accidental in its evolutionary logic. No one set out with a plan to create dogs. Once lower, fear brought more food, predictability reduced conflict, and cooperation brought benefits. Selection consistently favored those traits. The pressures were consistent even though no one could see the destination. This story should not end with humans conquering wolves or with fear quietly turning into friendship. The larger point sits somewhere else entirely. A lasting relationship between two species can form once both sides become steadily easier to predict. Long before affection, there may have been less panic, fewer violent encounters, and enough shared benefit to make another encounter worthwhile. Across generations, predictability made coordination easier. Coordination deepened dependence, and repeated dependence could support attachment. A dog is what happens when two social predators spend thousands of years becoming easier for each other to read. Dogs did not begin when humans defeated wolves. They began when wolves and humans became predictable enough that every encounter no longer had to be treated as a threat.